Hey everyone, before we start the show, a quick word from our sponsor, the American Nurse Association. This is a professional community that has helped us both when we were nursing students and now professional nurses. It has a ton of great resources and use for all nursing professionals.
Listen up, nurses and nursing students. Summer is here, and summer is a perfect time for you to brush up on your nursing skills. And that is exactly why the American Nurses Association is offering 25% off their courses, workshops, books, and their whole website. Use code SummerSale21 at checkout for your discount.
Go to nursingworld.org to get all the latest information there, or click the link in the description to find out about the sale. Don't forget, sale ends September 6th. You don't want to miss out.
Happy studying. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Couple Nurses Podcast with your host, Matt Sartrick, and myself, Peter Frindra. Episode number 124. I'm going to shameless plug some info here real quick. And make sure you guys check out couplenurses.com and wearefrontlinewarriors.com. We got some cool merch there, some cool blog posts, all our show notes, and a lot of amazing information. Shout out to all our Spotify fans, our Google affiliate or Android affiliate as well. Stitcher and all the listening platforms. Make sure you give us the 5 stars, give us the likes. And of course, thank you to our YouTube subs. If you guys don't know already, we are on YouTube. Make sure you check it out. We have the podcast all on there. We also have our vlogs, and we got some cool vlogs coming out weekly about some trips that we took in the Pacific Northwest. And a lot of cool content coming out for you guys. What's up, man?
What's up? Don't forget also the Facebook groups. If you have any comments, concerns about this episode, anything nursing related, nursing tips, humors, whatever it is, hop on into the Couple Nurses Facebook group. It should be all linked in the description. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the benefits of nursing, the 5 reasons why you should become a nurse, and also our experience. I think nursing is a very wide profession. There's so many different positions you could have. There's so many different job satisfactions, roles, degrees you could obtain. It just keeps on going. Little certificates, Daisy Awards. I think it's a very exciting profession, wide variety of perspectives, and it's also so many different units.
100%. And you don't even know how much opportunity you have looking from an outside perspective. It's not until you actually become a nurse where these kind of opportunities come to fruition and they arise in front of you. Because nursing school, you learn a little bit about leadership, a little bit about what it means to be a nurse, but you're just trying to get the theory in and you're just trying to land a nursing job. And then after you pass your NCLEX and maybe get a few years under your belt, then you could actually look at some growth opportunities and ways to scale yourself as a human being.
Yeah, so why did you become a nurse?
Why I became a nurse? I became a nurse with the intention of helping people, just because I always get that warm feeling inside when you help somebody out, and I always enjoyed helping people, and I felt like nursing was the way to go. I thought physician was also a good idea, but then that's too much school. I'm not a big school fanboy because I can't sit in one area for long periods of time. And yeah, I really just want to help people. And the whole thing, I also wanted to be a cop for a little bit too, but then my parents drilled that out of my mind just because they grew up in communistic times, and it was us, the people, against the state, so they kind of pushed me away from that.
Being a cop.
Yeah, but I actually thought about being when I was younger, like a cop nurse hybrid, which would be pretty cool, but I haven't really looked into it very much.
Yeah, maybe you could get into forensic nursing.
Yeah, what about you? Not so much forensic. I don't want to be I want to feel like a cop in the squad car, but with like a nursing background. I thought that would be cool, but like I said, haven't touched base upon it. But why did you become a nurse?
So, just like you've mentioned originally, is the thought of helping people, the good that you could bring, right? Joy. And originally, I really liked science, of course, and nutrition. So I told this story many times before where I wanted to go into dietitian originally. I always loved nutrition, like all the intermittent fasting stuff that we do. Like I'm always trying to optimize food. And I looked at the job, and it was a master's degree compared to a bachelor. So I thought that there's way too much schooling for me. And at a small education level, I was only 20, but I'm like, that's too much school. But when I look back at it, I have no regrets going into nursing, especially, no offense for anybody that's a dietitian, correct? But that's just not a role that I would have great job satisfaction with personally. I just love the thrill of nursing, everything that it encompasses, and just the close patient interaction. And being a dietitian wouldn't just satisfy that. It just wasn't for me.
Right, I can see that happening because, to be honest, I don't want to be rude, but but a lot of times dietitians get overlooked. Their importance definitely gets overlooked, and
100%.
yeah, and you don't. If you're somebody that doesn't pay attention a lot to nutrition and macros, micros, vitamins, minerals, then you're not really going to be able to appreciate the dietitian in the hospital. You have to kind of know some nutrition background to actually understand how beneficial it is to have that kind of degree. And once you explore those topics, those ideas of food and health and what it means to eat and pleasure and being healthy and proper food choices, then you actually start to appreciate like dietitians because they do hold a lot of knowledge, a lot of information. And unfortunately, one of those things that get overlooked. But regarding the 5 benefits of being a nurse, the first we want to address is the compensation. Registered nurses, they get paid a good amount, and also the industry is booming. The healthcare industry is a forever in demand and ongoing industry, which means it changes over time continuously because we're always trying to live longer. We're always trying to optimize our life physically and mentally, and there's always going to be a healthcare sector no matter what. Because our main focus, it seems like right now, is longevity. How can we live longer? How can we prevent aging? How can we prevent cellular death and cellular inflammation in all levels? It's forever changing. That's the beauty of it. You're always going to have a job. And even though as technology progresses, they might weed out certain careers, but there's always going to be new careers that are going to be put into the playing field. And that's the wonderful thing of it, that even though one job might be eliminated, you have another job to follow it in a different way, but still related to healthcare.
Yeah, especially when the two biggest employers, Amazon and Walmart, are trying to take a piece of the pie. You already have a giant multi-billion-dollar the healthcare sector, which has 70% of GDP. Now you have two big giants going into it. That's only going to expand the job projection of nursing. But not only that, though, you also have, we always talk about it, that it's sick care, and there's always that pill solution that's going to continuously progress. We're not going to just see a drastic cut in obesity or heart disease or diabetes. That's We know we're going down the wrong path. We know that maybe health might be on a decline, even though we're striving for longevity for the other people. So being a nurse, the benefit is job security. Right now, your role is not very replaceable. You're not going to have a job automated right now in the medical field. That's not going to happen in the next 10 years. It could be probably longer for all I know, because look how long it took flying cars to come out. We still waiting. It's 2021.
Yeah, right.
So
That one's your shit, huh?
yeah,
The idea.
we thought watching Blade Runner and stuff. I was like, what was it, 2049? I forget. But it's all futuristic, and looking back, it's nope. Even Surrogate, all these time frames took place in the 2020s.
All these predictions.
And we're still waiting.
Yeah. What's interesting to look at and that has to be noted is the Bureau of Labor and Statistics is saying that from 2019 to 2029, there's going to be a 7% increase in nursing jobs. So there's a very promising job outlook for nurses, and that's one of the highest growths in any industry. And that's an amazing field to be in because it's forever growing. And the beauty of healthcare is either way you look at it, as a pessimist or optimist, there's going to be growth in this field forever. So the pessimistic view is saying that society is getting sicker and that people are getting more unhealthy and aren't doing the proper things to maintain a healthy lifestyle, right? But on the healthcare side, that's a good thing because guess what? Now you have more people to treat.
As bad as that sounds.
Yeah. And on the flip side, optimistic view is, hey, people are getting healthier. We're not going to need as much sick care. And in an industry, that is going to be a shift instead of from treatment and acute as much and a greater acute care and figuring out how to combat disease to prevention. So you're always going to have a growth in this industry no matter what kind of outcome you come up with or predict is going to happen.
Yeah, it's just going to be a different treatment modality.
Exactly.
Just like you said, it's going to be secondary. The second benefit is nursing is a job that makes a difference. And that goes into job satisfaction. So what was your original purpose of going into nursing? It was to wanting to care for people, making them feel better. And that's the job satisfaction you're getting directly from that. There's so many... I had such a better experience working days. I had way more job satisfaction because the patients are always awake. And I've always had such good comments. When we walked out of work sometimes, I was always just like smiling, reminiscing about a specific patient, or, somebody gives me like this little metal pin to keep for, safety because I took care of their grandparents. one guy that's like 90 something is like, man, I love the way you kind of carry yourself. Like, here's a business card. This guy's 93, wants me to check up on him and follow up with him. There's just such a wide variety of people that you meet that always makes things, it gives you job satisfaction. Even if it's a shitty shift, you'll find, if you're an optimist, and that's the way I view life, you'll always find something good out of your shift. That's what it is. Even if it's like a laugh with a nurse, if you guys are swamped and you guys are going down a CT scan, there's a code, there's all this stuff happening, you could still find coworkers and laugh with. There's always going to be good job satisfaction in nursing.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up job satisfaction because now that I'm thinking about it, like because you said that you have better job satisfaction working day shifts. I'm actually thinking back and actually trying to figure out where in which shift, nights or days, that I have more job satisfaction. And to be honest, I think I had more job satisfaction working night shift
Okay.
just because of that autonomy, and especially working in Illinois, I probably had more job satisfaction in Illinois working nights than I did in other places, just because of the autonomy that I had and the way we had to figure out as a nursing team, figure out how to solve this patient's issue that's going on right now.
You feel like a rock star every day, right?
Oh, for sure. Because like I said, the autonomy was great and it was just nursing collaborative care and you just putting orders under doctors because you didn't really have to call them because you already knew what you had to do because of that group thinking that we had with the charge nurses, with the whole nursing staff. We all collaborate together and figure out what we had to do, and we would just put the orders in and the patient would be fixed without necessarily needing to call somebody at 2 o'clock. We basically fixed them ourselves, and then we would just pass it on during rounds at 6 in the morning, or we would call them at 5 or 6 in the morning at a more appropriate time and saying, hey, this is what happened, patient's stable now, we did this and that. And that provided me a job satisfaction because I'm not the kind of person that gets glory through like recognition, you know.
Little Daisy Award there.
Yeah,
I know you like that little pin on there.
Nah, that's not even my thing, dude. I never won a pin in my life, you know. I barely even got a pin for perfect attendance back in Mark Twain years. So like I get job satisfaction and I feel gratitude and joy and accomplishment when I just get shit done, you know. I don't necessarily need that like recognition, like, hey, you did a good job. Hey, Peter did this, which led to this. I could really care less for that, and that's what's kind of cool on nights because like you didn't really get a lot of recognition. You just got shit done.
Just did your shit.
And then people were like, "Oh shit!" If day shift comes around, like, "Oh shit, you did this all like by yourself." It's like, well, what's about myself? It was with the
team.
the team that I had around me. But yeah, this is what we did together. And that was amazing.
And I think there's also something very beautiful about nursing where you could just leave a mark in somebody's life forever, literally. You know, these people come in the most vulnerable time, and they're fearful. They need trust. They need somebody to just guide them and be an advocate for them. And these patients will remember they'll remember you. What you know, whether it's coming back. I know there was a situation that actually I thought about now was really made me feel very good. There was a patient that was very young, a heart that coded that we saved, and a year later, he came back, and I wasn't there because I was travel nursing, but Jess took a photo and showed me, and it's like, yeah, do you remember this guy? He came back, and I got little chills right now. It's just so amazing seeing your patient come back, and it's like, yeah, you saved my life, thank you, and it's like that thank you is just that's all you need.
Yeah.
It's not even the pay sometimes, man.
Or even AMN did a survey. This was back in 2019, pre-COVID time, and they surveyed nurses, and 81% of them said that they are happy with their career choice. And I gotta tell you, the reason being where that happiness stems from is having the ability to change someone's life on a daily basis. Because the tasks and the things that we do as nurses aren't, you could say, the most satisfying. Like no one gets joy from wiping ass. No one gets joy from cleaning up blood or cleaning up vomit or dealing with a combative patient or an ignorant patient. No one enjoys that. What nurses really enjoy in nursing is the aspect and ability to change a life on a daily basis. And it's always an everyday thing. It's always a possibility every day. And that's why nurses are so satisfied with their job, is just because they have that impact on one person.
Yeah, it's very powerful. It's profound. The third one is another reason to become a nurse is activity and the excitement at work. So when it comes to activity, this is not going to be a desk job, of course. You're moving around constantly. You're, doing 10, 15K steps a day. Your soles are hurting. You feel tired and exhausted. You're holding your bladder. And yes, there's like the, crazy spectrum of wild, and maybe there's just those slow nights. But when you're a nurse, you always have different patients, different situations. There's always different interactions. And I think that's what makes the job very lively. It's a very double-edged sword where you're driving to work and you have that almost a sense of anxiety. You're like, I wonder how my shift's going to be. But at the same time, that's exciting because you just don't know. You're always living on this edge as a nurse. And I think that's what kind of keeps me outside of my comfort zone is just nursing. It's always just pushing me to learn and do more, embracing my own personal struggles and just giving my best foot forth as a nurse.
Yeah. Yeah. The fourth benefit of being a nurse is flexible schedule and a wide variety of units and specialties. When you go into nursing, you have an idea of how it is, how the system works, what it means to be a nurse. But then once you graduate, you're exposed to this abundance of different places to work and different specialties. You could do pediatrics, you could do babies, NICU, adults, teenagers. You could work in a clinic, you could work in a doctor's office, you could be a flight nurse. There's a wide variety of different specialties, and you're always going to be able to find your niche and something that you enjoy in the nursing field. And what's beautiful about it too is the flexibility of the schedule. If you're a 9 to 5 kind of person, you could be a nurse. You could work a clinic. You could work an ER job or any kind of place that functions on those hours, or you could do the standard shift, which is usually 12 hours in a hospital or a more acute setting, and work 3 days a week. And that's beautiful because you work 3 days a week or 3 nights a week, and then you have literally the rest off. You have the means and the ability to work part-time, full-time, on call as needed. And a lot of times you're able to create your own schedule. So you could bundle your days in 3 in a rows just so you have ample time to spend with family, or you could do a random vacation. It's very flexible in not only a time frame and scheduling, but also in the different types of works that you could do.
Yeah, and you also could do different things like have a part-time and a full-time job. I have known nurses that worked full-time in a hospital and on the side they were doing home health and whatnot. So definitely a lot of flexibility. And also one of the negatives when it comes to flexibility, let's just say, is the holidays. But at least you're rotating and have a decent schedule. Some older folks like to kind of, if you're a younger nurse, you're more than likely maybe you're not going to be with your family on Christmas, but maybe for New Year's you will, because when it comes to seniority, nurses have a preference of being with their family, they have kids and all that, versus the younger generation. They want to party on New Year's or Labor Day weekend or whatever it is. At least that's how I operate.
Yeah, 100%. The fifth benefit of becoming a nurse is there's lots of room for leadership and ample opportunity for a growing environment. So usually, majority of nurses, they want you to get a bachelor's nowadays. A lot of times, the associate doesn't cut it, especially if you're going for like the magnet status or just a higher rating in the hospital. A lot of people require bachelor's, and that's kind of like the new standard, you could say. But after your bachelor's, you get your master's, and that opens the door to many different avenues of opportunity. You could do like leadership, you could do like a clinical nurse specialist, you could become a nursing supervisor, a nurse manager, nurse anesthetist. If you like the acute setting or more the family environment, you could become a nurse practitioner, step into more of a physician's and doctor's role. There's just not only so much things you could do with a bachelor's, but there's also this giant amount of growth opportunity. And I actually looked into like the developing healthcare field, and you're actually seeing more nurses step into informatics. People that are more data driven and kind of want to step away from the patient care aspect of it. A lot of nurses are now stepping into informatics, where they compile data, they see which diagnostics are the best, they help create tools, diagnostics, and treatments on bettering outcomes and bettering patient care. And that's a wonderful opportunity, because as we see nowadays is you have telehealth, telemed, it's becoming more wireless, more from the home kind of stuff. And it's interesting to see where this field's going to develop, especially since we always look at patient outcomes and which treatment modalities work the best. Informatics is a giant thing waiting to happen to healthcare. And it's slowly becoming a thing, but just when things move on, we are a data-driven society. So we're always going to be data-driven. And nursing is going to play a key role in this, because you're getting a bachelor's and you can maybe throw some kind of data analytics into your degree as well. You basically have an avenue for having any kind of career that you really want. Yeah. Be a more physical one or more analytic driven one in informatics.
Yeah, and aside from that, your development opportunities can also be non-traditional. So you can take an entrepreneur route. Something that we do, for example, we still have job satisfaction as nurses, but we're also have job satisfaction from podcasting and sharing the goodness of nursing and everything that we do. So you could always take the non-traditional route. There's nurses that, do podcasts. They open up those like Etsy stores and they sell things. They do a whole bunch of collaborative things. Kat's amazing. All these other people are getting into nursing and trying to benefit in different ways. Whether that's going to make you income, that's just going to depend. That might take some time, and whether that's your purpose and you really want to do that, that's all going to depend. You also can be an entrepreneur and invest in the future of telehealth. Just like you said, it's going to be a booming market, and you can always do something there. And then aside from the opportunities, a little bit on the flexibility side is, if you're tired from bedside, what we always preach is, man, go take a freaking experience with travel nursing. You're never going to regret it. And I think that's the flexibility that we always preach is you're going to be able to have your own schedule, pick the days that you want to be off. And of course, you already have 3 days off, so you get to do all this cool stuff, explore. It's amazing. You could take 3 months off in summer, not work if you saved enough and did the proper things. It's
very lucrative. Travel nursing is definitely I feel like almost the nursing of the future. I feel like people don't bring up travel nursing as much as they should, especially when we were coming out of school. No one really brought up travel nursing. You never heard of travel nursing?
I never even knew it existed.
Exactly. You never really even knew it existed. You just figured, hey, you get a job at a local hospital and you work the rest of your life. And then a few years down the line, you figured out, hey, there's something called travel nursing. You mean I could go to different states that I want to visit and work as a nurse just by signing a contract and getting a license? Like, that is so lucrative and so beneficial to everybody, to society, especially as nurses, because who does like to travel? And travel nurses get paid money, a lot more money than staff nurses. And I think that's where the industry is going, because it's interesting to see that these hospitals can afford to pay travel nurses this much money, but yet they can't raise the wages of their staff. And people bring that up, but a good counter argument to that is travel nurses are only there for a limited amount of time, so they could get paid higher because they're only there for a few months out of the year instead of housing these nurses for years and years and years, which makes sense. So if you're a younger nurse and you like traveling, like, why not just make more money and travel this beautiful country that we live in, the United States of America?
Yeah, not only that, but we've been sitting in classroom so much as reading books, and yes, you can learn something out of books, but nothing is a greater teacher than experience.
100%.
It teaches you so much. I have like a wide variety of situations. I'm trying to think where I grew, being on my own, just figuring things out, being stuck in a different city alone, nobody to reach out to. Who are you going to call?
Your mom?
You better figure it out yourself. And that's what's so cool about traveling and exploring.
And you learn how to communicate better because you're in a different environment. You're in a different type of work, different climate. And people are from different walks of life and they communicate differently. So you might learn how to communicate on a different level, because you could for sure say there's a distinct way people speak and dictate their life if you compare the West Coast and the East Coast, right? There's a different dialect, there's a different approach to communication. People speak differently, and that's what makes kind of society interesting, that we live in this giant continent, in this one country of 50 states, and yet you go from one coast to the other coast, and it's almost like a small culture shock.
Culture shock, 100%.
Yeah. And that's how you grow. Matt said that, yeah, you can learn from books, you can learn from theory, you can learn from school, but the biggest teacher is experience, because you're not ever going to get a full feel for it unless you actually do it. You could watch a bunch of videos on surfing, and you could imagine yourself surfing, hitting the waves, but until you hit the water with the surfboard, you haven't really experienced surfing. And that's how it is with traveling and with life. And like travel nursing, I feel like if you're in like your 20s or young 30s, and if you're not locked down anywhere, like, why not do travel nursing for at least like a contract or two?
Especially those that are from like smaller cities. We're from Chicago. We're kind of exposed to people all the time. But if you're from a small city, you want to get a taste of that. Maybe that's your calling. Maybe that's something you're going to enjoy in life, being a city person. Go try it for 3 months. You have no strings attached. It's not like a relationship where you caught some feelings and I got to stay with them. With travel nursing, there's a contract. The contract ended, you're out of there. You don't got to explain yourself. Your landlord, everything's secured. You're out. And shameless plug, if you're interested in travel nursing, hit us up. We have great agencies. We've did our fair share of bad experiences. We've dwindled with bad recruiters, and we know the loopholes of everything. So if you guys are curious to travel nursing, hit us up on a couple nurses.
Yeah, super fun. Just to dive away from this travel nursing topic, what I'm glad you brought up the alternative ways to become a nurse, or the alternatives if you don't want to go just a generic route of acute care or hospital environment or clinic environment. Is like forensic nurses. You mentioned it in the beginning of the podcast. That's also something you go into that is really interesting. I've spoken to and met, I think, one or two forensic nurses, and that was during clinical when I was in the ER, and I didn't know that that was a thing either. This was a female nurse that actually worked with sexually abused victims and with rape victims, and she helped them work through their trauma, and she worked directly with them. So when there's like a certain case, she also works on the judicial level with like laws and stuff like that. But whenever we had certain cases, she would be involved and she would be the one managing the care. And because she knew how to ask certain questions, she knew what to look for. Because a lot of times people that have been raped, they don't want to really talk about it because they feel like they're lesser in society. It's not something that people want to bring up. And they're also scared because if they bring it up, guess what? If they go back home to their partner and a partner finds out, it's going to lead to more physical and sexual abuse. So it's very interesting how she spoke to these people and how she kind of figured out certain things that she was able to tell me, like, hey, yeah, this person's getting abused at home just by speaking to him. Wow. And it's interesting because the patient doesn't actually straight up say it, but just the words that they used and the way that they move, she was able to guess that, hey, something's definitely going on at home. Going on. Yeah, and also nurses that enjoy law. There's also an avenue for law nurses, so you could actually be part of the hearing process and the court process of deciding certain issues with physicians, with nurses, medical professionals, to make sure nurses are abiding by the code of conduct and by their means of practice and scope of practice. So there's definitely a lot of avenues.
And also, I've met nurses that will go into like insurances, for example, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and instead of having direct patient care, maybe you're in charge of a few hospitals where you go visit patients that are under Blue Cross Blue Shield or whatever healthcare insurance it is, and you just assess the patient, making sure they're eligible and all that. So at least you're kind of going away from the bedside, because you hear that all the time. Bedside is rough. I can't be a bedside nurse forever. So that's also another paradigm shift. Maybe you want to go into like specialties away from bedside. You're tired of that. You go into like GI, cath lab, IR. All that's completely different, like OR nursing.
Or even pilot nursing. Pilot nursing, you don't really have to have anything besides like a bachelor's. So on education level, you don't really need anything. You're just going to need more experience. You're going to need experience in the ICU and in the ER, because on an airplane, it's usually you, maybe another nurse, just manage the situation, and a physician, of course. But you have to be able to know what to do in each situation. And I'm trying to think about other avenues of like growth and opportunity for nurses. But transplant nurses, shout out to all the transplant nurses. You could actually be a nurse that works up a patient for a transplant. You could be the one that calls the family and asks if they want to donate their loved one's organs. You could be the one that goes into the hospital, puts all the orders in, and manages the care for this person that's going to give away their organs when they die. So that's actually a very interesting career too, because you get to travel with that as well.
Yeah, that was actually my second choice, aside from when I did my first contract with travel nurses. I actually got a card in Illinois. It's called Gift of Hope, and I was supposed to work for them, and I wanted to do that whole transplant stuff. Also, different from bedside, you have more autonomy, you get to do things, and of course, job satisfaction, because you're actually helping another being that needs a critical organ right now. But things didn't work out, and travel nursing is my to go to right now.
Of course, there are many more benefits to becoming a nurse. We just went over probably our top 5, and nursing has been amazing to us. It's made us grow inside the workplace and outside, and a lot of the stuff that we've learned as nurses in the hospital has made us shine outside the hospital, because you just learn so much.
Yeah.
It's not something that's computer based or just automated. It's always a new experience. It's always a new trip. It's always a new plan of care, and it's just always exciting.
And that's another thing too, is the amount of stress you handle as a nurse. There's so many life situations you could handle, including everything that we're doing. People are like, how do you guys handle the stress? How are you guys recording, doing this, going there, activities? We just process emotions properly. We could put things aside. We have a schedule, because nursing taught us all this. And life is, even though nursing is hard as a profession, it makes life easier. 100%. Easier because whether it's higher pay, but it's also job satisfaction. It's also feeling grateful and feeling humble when your patients are on their deathbed, and at the same time you're going and you're seeing your kids, and or you're going home to your pets or yourself, and you're just feeling appreciative with all that you've seen. And it's unfortunate what you experience, and also you could come home and just enjoy your life because of how amazing it is.
Yeah, as a nurse, you go through so much life and death experiences where you're able to, if you're properly managing stress. There's of course there's nurses out there that deal with a lot of death in a hospital and ICU, but don't know how to manage their emotions properly. I'm speaking to the ones that could kind of have it already figured out. We go through so much death, dying, and just always that stress where you come home and your significant other, your loved one, your parents, your friends might be stressed about a situation, and they might ask you like, "Hey, aren't you stressed?" And you're like, "No." And why aren't you stressed? Is because there's nothing more stressful than being in a life and death situation, especially when a patient's life is in your hands, and it's almost you almost reach a certain point where it's numbing, where death just becomes just a part of life.
COVID definitely felt like that, man.
Exactly. So that's why a lot of people, like Matt said, like ask, like, why, like, how are you not so stressed? Because once you deal with that stress of having a patient die on you, or trying to figure out or prevent somebody from dying, the stresses outside of work don't seem that bad. They really don't seem that bad. And as crazy as that sounds, nursing prepares you for that.
Yeah, because you're less reactive to the world, essentially. Because
Yeah.
you're so reactive to everything in a workplace, including a freaking bed alarm, drips, everything, right? You got to get your attention right away to that. What's beeping in that room? I better go. Vent alarm, I'm there, right? And compared to here in life, you're just taking a step back from everything, and okay, this happened, that's okay. I'll take care of it tomorrow. Exactly. And you learn how to just process everything better as a person. Right. So yeah, I think everyone should be a nurse if they can be. And if you're listening to this podcast, hopefully you're motivated to become a nurse, or if you're studying, and if you're already a nurse, hope you guys are enjoying your job. If the work culture sucks, switch it. If you're tired from nursing, maybe go take a different route. Get a different avenue. Get away from bedside. Go into maybe forensics or law or
Travel
nursing, or working for a insurance company. Just switch it up, because don't forget why you originally became a nurse. Job satisfaction, helping people, all that. Remember those things, especially during a time of burnout and a time when hospitals are busy.
Thank you everyone so much for your time. See you on the next episode.
Peace.